it's been a year and some change since I've been on here, like a whole year. But I do have a valid, legit reason for me being gone so long. So last year, my dad got sick. Really before last year, but last year, we were just in and out of hospitals. I live like 4 hours away from Birmingham, and we were just driving back and forth to Birmingham every week to doctor's appointments. Every other week, he was having these surgeries for this disease that he has, that's called PAD, peripheral arterial disease. And so, if any of you know about the disease, it causes like the end stages, like stage 4, your legs, like your lower limbs or whatever, begin to basically decay and rot. And so he kept having stent surgeries placed in, trying to get blood flow throughout his body, his arteries, and especially the lower legs, like the lower limbs. And he just went surgery after surgery, getting stents after stents after stents. And we would come back home, and a few months later, his other leg began to break down, and it just began to, it was so much. It was so like physically demanding, emotionally demanding, mentally demanding, not just on me, but on him. Think about him and my mom, and, just seeing them go through something like that, which was different for my whole family. It weighed a lot, on me. And so, to be honest, YouTube was probably like the last thing that was on my mind, especially like, just coming on to record. I was on YouTube all the time listening to like worship music, sermons, and things to keep me encouraged, and watching you guys, like watching your videos, and watching just stuff to keep me busy, like in the hospital, stuff to keep me full and encouraged and inspired. I was just watching things that would keep me encouraged, just worshiping and listening to worship music and sermon after sermon after sermon, and just Bible, and like I had to keep myself just before God and in the presence of God, because the mental load that it places on you is I think it's underrated. I think people really underestimate what happens when a family member gets sick, a family member go through something as devastating as losing their leg. Well, my dad lost both of his legs, not just one, but both. And it was a life-changing, life-altering event, not just for him, but for us, for me, for my mom, for my family, my sisters and my brothers. And especially us that live at the house with him, and that was helping him through it, and, learning how to walk again, and just learning how to it's basically like you having to love yourself again. You having to get confidence in yourself again, and you're having to, trust God in a way that you haven't trusted him before. And you have to sit under God and be in God's presence in a way that you have never done before. It's like you coming to this place of having to just trust again, like trust yourself, trust everybody else around you, because think of how vulnerable it is to lose your limbs, to lose your legs, and you're having to learn how to walk again. You know what I'm saying? And even when you learn how to stand up again, you having to learn and hope that the walker doesn't get away from you. Hope that the prosthetic legs that's under you don't come from under you. Like, it's a long process, and my dad is still dealing with it, and still just learning how to cope with it. It's been a long journey, but it's also been it's been long and painful and hard. But one thing that I've learned, that even through this process, like, there were and still are like beautiful moments, even during such a painful transition, because even though, we don't want our family sick or whatever, but there were like bonding moments. I learned a lot about my dad through this moment. Like, he's such a strong man. Like, I learned the strength. He's always been a provider, always been faithful and committed to his family. But like, I got a chance to see my dad in another light. Like, I got a chance to see my dad in the strength of a hero, like, because it really took a toll on him at first, and to see him just come through it, and to get life back, and to get, just his strength, and he's confident again, and he's hopeful again, and just to see how prayer worked, and just to see how just community and faith and God and just staying in God's presence, like it really just made me grow my relationship with God. Even though I was already saved, already a Christian, already a believer, already living committed and faithful, but that even strengthened my relationship with God. Like the way I sat under God in his presence, and the way he's grown me through that, grown my faith through that, grown my perseverance through that. Like it's been such a beautiful process. It's been beautiful because anybody can love you at your highest point. Anybody can love you, and anybody can stay when you have it all. Anybody can love you when everything's good, everything's sunny. But the people who stay, the people who can stay when you've taken a loss, the people who stay when life gets hard, the people who stay when you're changing and when you're going through these life altering events, those are the people who really care. Those are the people who God sent in your life to make a difference and to make an impact, and just to be able to see like friends who stayed, family who stayed, pastors who helped, and just people from my church and my friends, and just people who poured into me while I was going through that, people who poured into my dad and poured into my mom and poured into my family. Man, it's just like we take people for granted. We have to remember that God works through people. God works through us. We're the hands and feet of Jesus. So I can talk about this all day because I've grown through this so much. Like I've sat under God, sat in his presence, and just done got so much wisdom and so much like joy and so much peace and fulfillment and happiness and just discipline and perseverance, just going through a storm, like just going through pressure, just going through a season of darkness. And that's another thing. Like sometimes we feel like we're going through, sometimes we feel like, Lord, why this and why that? But if you think about like when you're going through a highway, when you're on your way to a trip, and we come under a bridge, right? You pass through that bridge, and there's a season of darkness when you're under that bridge. But when you begin to pass that bridge, you come back out on the highway. You come back out on the other side of the highway, whereas you back in the sunshine. You on your way, you on your journey, and then it may be sunny for the next 30 minutes, and then you come up under another bridge, and there's a season of darkness right there under that bridge. But you're gonna come out again, and there's gonna be sunshine again on your journey. And sometimes life is like that. It won't always be sunshine. It won't always be just groovy. Sometimes it'll be gruesome. Sometimes it'll be pain. Sometimes it'll be, burden and it'll be heavy sometimes. But that doesn't mean that's the absence of God. Just because there's seasons and periods of darkness doesn't mean that that's an absence of God, because God is omnipresent. He's everywhere at all times. He's with you at all times. It's just life. Like we just live in a physical realm, and we'll have sicknesses, and we'll have periods of loneliness and isolation and darkness. And we have to know that God is still with us, growing us even through those periods of darkness, periods of isolation. We can go through a period of darkness, but that doesn't mean we're dark. That doesn't mean, we're living in darkness just because we experience periods and seasons of darkness. And I don't even know how I got on this topic, but maybe it's for one or two of you that may be going through what feels like a season, a period of darkness, and you may be questioning God, like, why me? Just trust that he's with you. Trust that he's growing you even through the pain. Trust that he's growing you even through the period of darkness, period of isolation. You have to, sometimes I think about like, when a photographer takes like the film and he has to take it into a dark room in order for the film to become something that they can see, a good result that they're looking for. If he or she exposes that film too soon to sunlight, then it messes up the film, it messes up the picture. And sometimes we're the same way. We try to come out of our periods of darkness and our periods of isolation, our periods of growth and our periods of development before it's time, before God is ready to bring us out. And so when we step outside, we step out of alignment with God, and that causes us to get into a situation. Then we figure out that we're not equipped, we're not developed enough for the situation or for the position or for the platform that God was trying to develop us for during our season of darkness, during our season of isolation, during our season of, development. Him having us set aside, him having us away from the crowd, him having us away from the friends, him having us away from the family. in order to grow us and to develop us, because in the end, it's all about the person that God is trying to get you to become. It doesn't matter if he used a storm. It doesn't matter if he used the rain. It doesn't matter if he used the sunshine. God is going to use whatever he needs to use in order to get you to the person, to the place, to the position that he's trying to call you. Nothing will stop him. No plan can block him. He will get you to the place that he has already predestined you for. And so I just want you to be encouraged. Just wanted to share that little bit as to why I was away from YouTube for a while. Even now, you know, we're still getting my dad back to, you know, how he was before, and just personal stuff. Just life is still life. And so as I'm encouraged, I want you to be encouraged. And yep, come back for the next video. Make sure that you stay in purpose, on purpose. See you in the next one.